Coming up on Carolina News Now.
I'm thrilled to be here.
When Panthers owner David Tepper arrived in Charlotte, he had big plans for both Carolinas. But some of those plans are stalled or stopped, so we're asking questions. Plus,
but I truly believe that God sent you to save us.
A Wilmington family saved from their burning home. Why this mom says without 2 police officers, they wouldn't be alive. And a wish granted just in time for summer.
I would have never imagined this, like to have an in-ground pool.
How an Eastern North Carolina company stepped in to make a huge splash in his life. Hi there and welcome back to Carolina News Now. I'm Maddie Gardner and we are covering the stories from both North and South Carolina this week. We have a lot in store for you as you saw there, but we are going to begin with a big national story that it's made its way to the Carolinas. A draft of a Supreme Court decision was leaked earlier this week and it could overturn Roe v. Wade. This has sparked nationwide protests and opinions on both sides of this issue, including here in the Carolinas. We go first to Melissa Rademacher, who is reporting on one of those protests from Charleston.
And this was planned last minute. This has all come down in a matter of 24 to 48 hours. So you know that if this many people at the last minute can stand up and be loud on a weekday, that just shows that we're really determined to make a stand against a potential striking down of Roe v. Wade.
People gathered for about an hour and a half at the corner of Meeting and Broad Streets with signs to protest the Supreme Court draft that shows it may overturn Roe v. Wade.
This is what democracy looks like!
Charleston City police officers were also there. Planned Parenthood representatives spoke at the rally.
This is a human rights issue, right? So I don't have to be a person of color to be against racism. So I don't have to be a woman to be for the rights of people to control what happens to themselves.
South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham spoke on the topic Tuesday, saying he is pro-life and explaining if overturned, the topic would go to the state level.
I support exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother. That's my personal view. I don't know what South Carolina would do. All I can say is that before 1973, this was the process. And if a state does something, there's a backlash against the people who voted, then you take care of it at the ballot box.
People at the rally talked about the importance of using their voices, not only at the protest, but at the polls as well, something that some say they have already been doing for years.
As you can see, I'm teared up. I have granddaughters, I have grandsons, but for my granddaughters to lose the right over their bodies, I can't even begin to imagine the future that is in store for them and every other child and young woman.
Now on to a story that affects both North Carolinians and South Carolinians. We're talking about the Carolina Panthers, the football team, owner David Tepper's projects in both states. So joining me now is WBTV's investigative reporter, David Hodges. You did an investigation this week. What did you find?
Well, we were looking into the state of all of David Tepper and Tepper Sports and Entertainment's projects in both Charlotte, Rock Hill, and beyond. Everything that's going on with Rock Hill, the headquarters, the stall of that project, nothing's happening out there right now. We decided it was time to take a look at all the public-private partnerships that he's getting into because there's not a lot of progress on any of them.
Listen, I'm thrilled to be here.
When David Tepper first moved to Charlotte after buying the Panthers, he was clear he wanted a new stadium with a retractable dome. Now, that's no longer the case.
After being here and seeing how gorgeous it is here and how nice it is to come to the stadium and just sit under the sun and enjoy it and just like...
It's a relatively minor adjustment, even if it could have a huge impact on the cost of the stadium. But other projects pursued by Tepper Sports and Entertainment that would cost taxpayers on both sides of the state line are missing deadlines and maybe even just dead.
This is a watershed moment.
The Panthers' headquarters and practice facility in Rock Hill is by far the biggest example. But there are more questions about projects announced between Tepper Sports and the city of Charlotte, too.
To welcome Charlotte to Major League Soccer.
Shortly after Charlotte was awarded an MLS franchise at the beginning of 2020, details of negotiations between the city and Tepper started becoming public. The city agreed to commit $110 million to the MLS project, with some of it going to the Eastland Mall site that would include the MLS team headquarters.
Tepper Sports will be that anchor.
But by October of 2020, Economic Development Director Tracy Dodson said the plan was already morphing and the MLS team headquarters was no longer part of that plan.
Now what we're looking at is the Charlotte FC Elite Academy headquarters with training and tournaments and camps there.
The $110 million deal was now just $35 million, and there was a new plan for an uptown entertainment district surrounding the stadium to attract people year-round.
The vision for the Uptown District would be completed in 2021, with the further, more in-depth analysis for a long-term play for the stadium to follow in 2022.
Neither of those plans have been revealed yet. During a news conference with Tepper last week, I tried to ask him about the Eastland and Uptown projects.
Do you have any other plans for Eastland as it stands right now?
Well, today we're going to talk about football. Okay, that's what this is, and I tell you what, I'll make you a promise that sometime in the near future, I don't know when that near future will be, we'll talk about soccer.
Any updates on what you're hoping for the development of that district?
When we talk about soccer, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll talk about entertainment then too.
Are those things not kind of round up together though? Soccer, football, it's all part of a big project, is it not?
No, it is. But given that I thought people would want to focus on football. We're on the verge of the draft here. I'm happy to have those conversations, but I'd rather do them at another time.
Dodson, the city's economic development director, would not answer our questions either, with the city issuing a statement instead, saying, quote, "The relationship between the city and Tepper Sports and Entertainment is active and strong. The city and Tepper Sports have ongoing and regular discussions about various projects, such as Charlotte FC and Eastland. But as it stands now, the city has not dispersed any of the money related to MLS or stadium upgrades, and there's not even a signed agreement between the two parties."
And joining me now is meteorologist Rachel Coulter. Rachel, we are headed to the weekend. We want to get a check of that weekend weather forecast, but could be dealing with some severe weather.
Yeah, especially tomorrow. So our Friday across the Carolinas is looking pretty active. So as we transition to the weekend, we definitely want to make sure that we're staying weather aware. I know it's been active so far this week, a couple of days, and we have the likelihood of severe weather across the region heading into our Friday. So I'm going to time that out for you. You can see a severe threat there on your screen. That's slight risk for almost the entire state of North Carolina, a large portion of South Carolina with that marginal or level 1 out of 5 risk for the east coastline from Wilmington down towards Myrtle Beach. That's what we're going to see extending into southeastern South Carolina as well. But I wouldn't be surprised to see an enhanced or level 3 out of 5 risk issued for portions of North Carolina heading into the day tomorrow. So that's going to be something to watch for. But all that means is that all of us have that potential for damaging wind gusts, hail, and maybe even a few tornadoes across the Carolinas. So that's going to be something we're watching for, mainly for the afternoon and evening hours. I'll show you what I mean here. That's 2 o'clock on Friday. You can see that strong line of storms moving in, and any storms that form out ahead of that would also have that threat for a tornado development, especially along that North Carolina, Virginia state line closer to the Raleigh area tomorrow afternoon. But we're all going to run the risk of seeing severe weather. There's what radar could look like by the evening commute. You'll notice that Charlotte up towards Greensboro down into Columbia would have the best chance of storms at that point, extending east towards Raleigh as we work our way towards the late evening hours and eventually drying out for the most part. However, a few isolated strong to severe storms will be possible late Friday night, and then watch what happens Saturday. Can't guarantee dry weather on Saturday, even some lingering cloud cover heading into the second half of your Saturday. Fortunately, Maddie, by the time we get to Mother's Day, although we'll be cooler, you see the 40s and 50s to start Sunday morning, even some cloud cover, we are looking drier. So Mother's Day across most of the region looking dry for the second half of the weekend.
Yes, so maybe you can get outside and spend some time with your moms this weekend. Rachel, thank you so much. We're going to check back in with you here in just a few minutes to get another look at that weekend regional forecast. We really appreciate that. You know, we're talking about mothers. This next story, Rachel, is about a mother in Wilmington, a family living there. They were woken up at about 3 in the morning. Their house was on fire, and the only reason that they were alerted to this is because a neighbor was out walking his dog at the time and called 911. So we're going to go now to Cassie Simmons, who spoke to the mother of 2, and she walks through the house and just recalls the night that this happened.
We got woken up with loud pounding at around 3 a.m. I shot straight up and I didn't know like what was going on.
April 18th. Jody Sharpnack was asleep in her room with one of her young daughters. She had no idea in just seconds that room would be in flames.
I went out to the living room and I saw a cop standing there. And he's like, you guys need to leave, you gotta leave. And I'm like, what is going on? And my husband's like, our house is on fire, our house is on fire.
Officers Shane Benfield and Christina Hearn responded to the scene after a neighbor happened to take his dog outside and saw the fire.
That night we had very high winds and it was very dry conditions, so we knew the urgency of trying to get to that area to make sure that no houses were in jeopardy.
The cop came back in here too, and he had to grab my daughter off the floor while she was still sleeping, tossing her over to my husband. And during all of this, it was very, very chaotic.
They left with only the clothes on their backs and her husband's truck. The first time she came back to what was left of her home, she broke down in tears.
It might not look like much to some, but it means a lot to us. We had a lot of growing in here, a lot of healing going on here, and it was really traumatic for us to lose our house.
The city is recognizing the officers for their heroics, but Benfield and Hearn say they were just doing their jobs.
All my officers are like that. I don't think I've got a single officer that wouldn't do that.
Still, Sharpnack calls them her angels.
You may have been doing your job, but I truly believe that God sent you to save us.
Goodness, glad everyone made it out okay. That was Cassie Simmons reporting from near Wilmington. We are going to go to a short break, but coming up on Carolina News Now, we have much more ahead. A winery is looking to rebuild near Myrtle Beach after a fire there. It's the second fire that this winery has seen since 2016, so we'll take you there. Plus, you'll have to see this story out of eastern North Carolina. A little boy battling bone cancer was gifted an swimming pool just in time for summer, so you have to see his reaction to that. And then we'll have another check of your regional weather forecast with meteorologist Rachel Coulter. She'll come back and join us here at the desk. So stick around. We're going to be back in just 45 seconds. Welcome back to Carolina News Now. I'm Maddie Gardner, bringing you the stories from both North and South Carolina that you may have missed this week as we wrap up the week and head into the weekend. I want to take you now to near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where years of hard work were just lost in the early morning hours. A fire burned down almost half of the Cartersville Country Winery. Again, this is near Myrtle Beach, and this is actually not the first experience they've had with a fire. Zach Wilcox found out that they also had a fire back in 2016. And their main building was burnt. So they spent the week really picking up the pieces and doing all that they can do. Let's go now to Zach.
Well, my granddad made wine all his life, and I watched him make wine.
Wine has been a part of Tom Langston's life since the beginning, which is why he and his stepson decided to start their own endeavor in the business back in 2008.
Plant some grapes, let's make some wine. And we, started off small, bought a little bit of small equipment, made wine, everything turned out real good.
Things went from real good to great over the past year or so. Cartersville Country Winery recently won a platinum medal from the Great American International Wine Competition for their peach wine and expanded their tasting room. That was until a fire burnt all that hard work in a matter of minutes.
We had a disaster. We lost a few ball equipment, label machine and ball machine. We lost them too.
Langston says they'll be able to stay open while they rebuild. They'll move the tasting room into the event space where they have weddings, and the bed and breakfast is still intact. And the vineyard and fermenting equipment is okay, which means the team will still be able to do what they do best while they rebuild. That's making wine.
We still open, we ain't closed, we'll be here.
Goodness, Zach, thank you so much. I hope that they will be able to rebuild there. By the way, the Sardis-Timmonsville Fire Department, who responded, is still investigating. They have not yet said what the cause of that fire was. All right, let's come back to North Carolina here, eastern North Carolina, with a heartwarming story this week. A company in Jacksonville is helping a little boy's dreams come true just in time for summer. He has a rare form of bone cancer. It's called osteosarcoma, and the Mayo Clinic says fewer than 20,000 cases of it are reported in the United States each year. But he just wanted a pool in his backyard, and a company stepped in to make sure that he had one and that it was accessible. Derek Rush has the story.
Looking through the lens as workers carve out the spot for a new pool out back.
I would have never imagined this, like to have an in-ground pool.
Joel and the McConkey family can't help but reflect on the road to this point.
In January in 2020, I fell at church and my legs started to swell.
He had been having some leg pains for a few months prior. We'd taken him into the doctor. You just assume, 10-year-old kid, that it's growing pains.
But those pains were much more serious than they thought. Doctors found a tumor on Joel's leg and later diagnosed him with osteosarcoma, a very rare type of bone cancer. Joel went through surgery that grafted bone from one part of his leg to repair the bone damaged by cancer. He has since been on the road to recovery. The now 12-year-old's wish to help with that was for a pool.
All the family really was hoping for was just an above-ground pool, and that's kind of how we were headed. But I felt I could not see how he would be able to really safely get up the ladder and manipulate to get in the pool and then get out and do it without maybe possibly being hurt.
After reaching out to their pool vendor, Sheila Barber's family-owned Pool, Patios, and Spas donated a heated in-ground pool to be installed for Joel.
That was for Mom and Dad important because of his leg and the healing process of physical therapy and movement.
And Joel says he can't wait to try it out.
After I get in the pool, throw some torpedoes in the 6 feet water and dive for them.
An almost $60,000 project covered by one family to make one boy's wish come true.
Reporting for Carolina News Now, I'm Derek Rush.
And again, that was Derek Rush reporting. I mean, that's why you love family-owned businesses, because of course they reached out about this pool, and it was best for Joel that it be in ground because he has some difficulty getting up and into the pool, and $60,000 his family business just donated it and made it possible.
That's amazing. You can just see the smile on his face, and even it looks like his sister's face too. Just precious video there. So that was amazing.
She was trying to become the star of the show. She was like, let me get up in this camera shot. I appreciate that.
That's adorable.
I'm not so sure about our chances of being outside in a pool this weekend, just because I've been hearing that you are talking about some severe weather for the Carolinas.
Yeah, especially for Friday. And we could even have some lingering showers and maybe even a few rumbles of thunder, maybe even a little hail there, some small hail into Saturday. We'll finally dry out for your Mother's Day plans, although lingering cloud cover will be around. So I'm going to walk you through this. There's a lot to talk about, and especially with the temperatures that surround all this as well, because it's been summer-like. I know portions of South Carolina hit the 90-degree mark this afternoon. We've been more so in the 80s across the Piedmont and the Charlotte area, even cooler 70s for the mountains, but this is what we're expecting into tomorrow. So keep in mind, whether you're listening to me from Charleston or Myrtle Beach, if you're listening in from Charlotte or Boone, we all have the potential for severe weather tomorrow afternoon and evening especially. So you can see the morning hours mostly dry, but by the afternoon, we're going to watch a strong line of storms move through portions of the mountains and the foothill communities, and any storms that form out ahead of that from Charlotte to Greensboro, Winston-Salem, Raleigh could certainly become strong to severe. Damaging wind gusts are the main concern, but a few tornadoes across the region are possible, and we're also expecting some large hail at times as well. That's what radar could look like as we approach the evening commute. So if you're starting off your Friday plans around 5 o'clock, you're definitely going to want to look at your screen. That's what radar could look like. Main impacts at that point, Charlotte, Columbia, even approaching Raleigh in between about 5, 8 o'clock. Looks like we lose a little bit of steam, but we could still see some strong to severe storms and more isolated in nature late in the evening hours on Friday. Let's talk about Saturday. Notice how we start off in the morning hours in eastern portions of the Carolinas, a little bit closer to the East Coast. clear, dry, everything looks great, but we still have an upper level low that's going to be spinning, and it's going to be taking its sweet time, taking it off to the east coast. So what that means for us is you get some of that wraparound cloud cover and moisture, so that's what's going to prompt those showers that we're expecting on Saturday. You'll notice not everyone sees rain, but the chances are there. I think the best chance of rain would actually be over North Carolina than what we'll see over South Carolina, so that's the good news for South Carolina plans. But eventually we'll start to dry out as we head into your Sunday. So that's Sunday morning, 7 o'clock, still dealing with the clouds, but at least dry. We'll start to finally see some clearing for the second half of your Sunday. You'll see what that does to your temperatures. 70s in the mountains on Friday, 50s and 60s Saturday and Sunday. So we're going to be cooler behind this front. You see 80s tomorrow from Columbia through Charlotte up into Raleigh. 70s though, and even cooler for Raleigh as you head into your Sunday as well. And that's going to be a similar trend to what we see. 80s here the next couple of afternoons for Wilmington and Charleston, back to the 70s and even the 60s out towards the Outer Banks on Sunday. So moral of the story, strong storms tomorrow, few scattered showers, passing showers and clouds Saturday, cooler by Mother's Day, but drier.
Yeah, whenever you show the mountains to the coast forecast here, Rachel, I'm always like, how do we get out there? Because, of course, we are coming to you guys from Charlotte, North Carolina. We are bringing you the news from Charleston and Myrtle Beach and Wilmington. So we'll have to maybe we can take this show on the road.
That would
just go
sign
visit.
me up.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about that with the boss here shortly.
I love that. Well, that is all for this week's episode of Carolina News Now. Rachel, thank you so much for that
Absolutely.
forecast. And thank you guys for joining us. We hope that you have a wonderful and safe weekend and you can get out there in between the severe weather and the storms and maybe enjoy some time. For all the moms watching, happy Mother's Day. We hope you enjoy your day and we'll see you right back here next week.